What is up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Dense Pixels podcast. I'm your host, Brad, joined by my co-host, Micah.
Happy N7 Day.
It is N7 Day.
It is N7 Day. I'm celebrating by wearing my my hoodie, which I just realized you can't see the N7 because
but you can see the distinctive stripe, which is all that matters.
Now that you have seen it, I'm taking it off because
it's very hot. Yes, I get it. It's 70 degrees in Maryland right now, which is unseasonably hot for early November. So, not a fan. I'm a fall weather guy, and this is definitely not fall weather.
Yeah, man, I'm a jacket guy, man. I love capes and hoodies and jackets, and this is killing my whole vibe. I wait all year for autumn. And this is what I get, an 80-degree day. Come on, man.
It's fucked up. You know, we're here. Far be it for me to be beholden to the order of things in the docket. We did get a small message from BioWare today saying, "Hey, everything's going well with the new Mass Effect game. We don't really have a whole lot to show you." But then they also put out this 25-second video that shows what looks like some kind of a space station being built that came with some muddled audio, and people decoded it, and so I guess people figured out what it said, so that EA released or BioWare released what they called a clean transmission, and it was an audio file of Liara Tassoni, who we know is going to be in the new game. Basically saying, the council is going to be pissed, but although they should know by now not to underestimate human defiance. And she was talking to a Geth of some kind. Could it be Legion? I don't know, because that would make one of the choices that you make in Mass Effect 3 canonical, which seems like, I don't know if they want to basically set canon for all but the last big choice in Mass Effect 3. Michael, what do you think about the little nibble that we got today?
I'm glad that they haven't forgotten that, some of us diehards still celebrate N7 Day, and I'll take whatever little morsel I can get. Not really much to go on. That's my big question is, are they going to make one of the endings a canon ending?
Yeah.
That's the only thing I really am concerned about right now. Everybody's like, "Well, is Shepard coming back?" I mean, you can bring back Shepard. Like, Shepard died before. You can bring them back.
Maybe there's a whole Emperor Palpatine style clone facility with nothing but Commander Shepards ready to save the galaxy at a moment's notice.
But then we'd have to play Fortnite in order to get the backstory as to why that happened, because that's a thing that happened in Star Wars.
Michael, let me tell you the power of Fortnite real quick. So, the new Call of Duty came out. Apparently, it's decent. It better be, because that's the horse they're riding for the next 2 years. Is this new Call of Duty game? They added a third-person mode into the multiplayer. That's where you can specifically play third person, because that's how popular Fortnite is, because they want to try to get some folks over here that are used to playing a third person shooter. And so, yeah.
Jesus.
I was listening to a podcast review talk about the third person mode, and they say it's funny because the momentum is the same as the first person mode, but in first person mode, they don't really move like a person actually moves. So
Right.
The people in third person move hyper fast, and it just looks kind of weird compared to what you would normally expect in a third person shooter.
I would imagine, right? It's I would imagine that it's like that SOCOM running where your torso stays in place, but you're the bottom half of your body is on a swivel. And it must be really weird seeing your little army men build dams or whatever the hell they do in Fortnite.
Well, that's the thing, because remember, Fortnite has the no build mode now, which has opened it up to a lot of people. So that I think that's what Call of Duty, that's kind of the audience they're going for. is to kind of get those folks in that are enjoying the no build part of Fortnite. Be like, oh, come play our military shooter. Like, you can't use John Cena, but you can still do stuff.
What if that's the next big thing for Call of Duty to ape, right? Like just putting in any random person that might be like hot right now.
I mean, didn't they already kind of do that? Didn't they have like a Snoop Dogg skin in Vanguard, I think?
I would not be surprised. Snoop Dogg sells. I don't want to call Snoop Dogg a sellout, but I will call him a brand whore. Like he will hawk anything if you pay him, and I'm not terribly upset at it. But
no, fuck it. You, like I said, you made your mark on the world, and now you can enjoy the spoils of being an aging rapper who doesn't have to make music anymore.
There you go.
So not a lot of news this week, which is fine because I've really been enjoying playing my video games here. But the biggest news that probably came out was that PlayStation announced and the screen is like super dark, so I'm just gonna have to click away from this. Announced the price for the PlayStation VR2. They also said it's coming out in the jam-packed February 2023 release calendar. Micah, the PlayStation VR2 is going to clock in at $549 US, which makes it both incredibly overpriced because that's more than a PlayStation 5 system is currently, and yet also a bargain because from a spec standpoint, this is comparable to like the Valve Index VR headset, which starts at $1,000 on PC.
Jesus. Yeah, I was gonna ask because I don't have VR. I've never tried it.
Mm-hmm.
The price feels like it is incredibly high.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what like decent specs are for VR systems. So if you tell me that this is something that is worth that this is value for money,
Mm-hmm.
I believe you. And I'm just gonna say I don't. This isn't. I'm not convinced to shell out.
Well, yeah,
for grip for VR.
So from a hardware perspective, yes, it is. But there were some folks that were speculating that this could possibly like oh, what if PlayStation makes it compatible with PC because Sony's making a lot of inroads with the PC community right now because they're releasing a lot of their games on PC after they've been out on PlayStation for a little while and things like that. And I think if this is compatible with a PC, I think that becomes a massive success for them because you have people running out to buy this headset that have no interest in owning a PlayStation. Because to be able to get like a VR headset that's that powerful for that price is pretty good value for money considering what competitors are selling their headsets for out there. The problem is that when you're selling this on a PS5, really you're not competing against like the Valve Indexes of the world because there's a whole lot of extra benefit you get playing VR on PC, and that's like the modding community, and there's a lot more games available and things of that nature. You're competing with like the Meta Quest buying community out there, and a Meta Quest starts at $400. It's not as powerful as the VR2, but it's powerful enough, and it's wireless. And it already has a very well-established VR games library. Whereas the PlayStation 5, there hasn't been a lot of games announced for it. And not only that, but they've also said that PS4 VR games will not be compatible with this new headset because it uses a new I don't know, like a new engine or base or whatever the fuck it is. Now, there's a lot of folks who made games on PlayStation 4 who have said they're going to be putting out free updates for the games that will make them compatible on PS5 VR or the PlayStation VR2. So that's good. But Sony's not mandating it. Like, it's up to the individual publishers and developers to kind of do that. No word on Beat Saber compatibility yet, and unfortunately, if you have a VR headset, it better be able to play Beat Saber at a minimum because that is like the VR game. That's like the standard VR game that everybody wants and everybody plays, kind of the Wii Sports of VR, as it were. But yeah, it's like I said, so it's in a weird spot. it's also in a weird spot because obviously PlayStation 5s have been difficult to come by over the last 2 years. We are almost at the 2 year anniversary of the PlayStation 5, if you can
Wow.
believe it. It's been that long already. Now that's easing up because PlayStation, I think, led the console unit sales in October, which tells me that the supply chain woes are starting to ease a little bit for them, which is going to make them happy as well. But I don't know, man. Like $549 is a big ask, especially when again the software just doesn't seem to be there at the moment for this.
Yeah, man. It not being backwards compatible is a really big blow to this thing. Like, I'm not mad at the price. The price is the price, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's I it's more expensive than like other VR headsets, but if you're telling me like this is like the top of the line shit, like I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked that a product with the Sony label on it is
Mm-hmm.
overpriced, right? Like that doesn't surprise me. But if you don't have anything to, it's all about the games, man. If you
Right?
don't have anything to play, like there's no way I can see anyone buying this
Yeah.
just for shits and giggles. Nah, man, 550 is not shits and giggles money.
No. And the big, like I said, the big title they've announced so far is that Horizon VR game, but I have to imagine that's like a shorter experience. I don't know how long the game is, but the thing that where VR has been successful is games that have a lot of replay value, and I don't feel like that the Horizon VR game is going to have a ton of replay value. Like you're going to play it once and it's going to be really cool, but then you're probably never going to play it again. That's going to be a $70 game when it comes out, I'm sure. So like that's a lot of money. There's a bundle I think they're selling that comes with that game packed in for 600, but you know, it's they're in a tough spot, right? Like the market for this, like if you're a VR aficionado, you're probably using VR on PC. And if you're not like, I'm not going to pay this kind of money for a headset, but you still are curious about VR, you probably want to get a Meta Quest. Like I had an Oculus Quest, which is the same headset, and that was a really fun toy for 6 weeks, and then I stopped really using it. Now, part of the reason I stopped using it is because I'm kind of space challenged right now in my current home. Like I don't have a really great area to play VR in. Like I was literally playing Beat Saber, like sitting in my chair in my office, like facing one direction, because that game you can just move your hands. Meanwhile, I would go play Super Hot in my living room, and my wife's outside with our son, and she's like, "You look like you're doing Tai Chi while you're playing Super Hot," because Super Hot, of course, is like the fucking, like the slow motion John Wick game, where when you're moving, the enemies are moving, but it's a really fun game. Again, there's a lot of really cool experiences out there in VR, but it's kind of a place where you almost have to make your own way, like because VR is not really supported by the big AAA developers that are out there in the space. So you're sort of reliant on indie developers and on the first party publishers for what Sony has coming. And I just don't think Sony has a whole lot that they've announced yet that they're
Do
supporting
you
this with.
do you think the VR bubble? I want to get the phrasing right.
Mm-hmm.
Is the VR bubble about to burst? Like, is this the last gasp? I just don't see. I'm having a very very difficult time seeing virtual reality video games within 10 years of just like being mainstream. Like, oh yeah, this is the new thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when do we get to a point where, what are we in the ninth generation of consoles,
Mm-hmm.
something like that? I don't see it happening in the 10th generation, which is another 5 to 7 years from now. And I mean, I can't predict that far into the future to talk about the 11th generation,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. I don't know. I don't see it happening in the next generation.
If you're asking, will VR ever like break through to the mainstream gamer? Probably not. I don't see it ever really breaching that one wall. Mostly because the cost of entry is too high. to get decent equipment. And I think that's the biggest obstacle that it has is you're asking people, hey, like not only buy this $500 console, but also this $550 headset on top of it. That's going to have a very limited use case. So I think price is the main thing that prohibits it from hitting the mainstream. But the VR community, even though it's niche, like they really do like their games, and there's a lot of independent development for VR games. Again, mostly on PC, but a lot of those games do make their way over to PlayStation eventually because since the audience is limited for those developers, you kind of have to go where the audience is. And again, that's why Mark Zuckerberg's trying to spend billions of dollars with the metaverse because that's how he sees it opening up to the mainstream. Now, of course, Mark Zuckerberg has tanked 60% of Facebook's market cap with this really bad idea. So, and to me, that kind of underlies that it's never going to be something that really just breaks out widely. I think companies eventually will end up wanting to move more towards AR. I think Microsoft is a little early to that party when they were doing the HoloLens stuff a couple of years ago. I don't think we're quite there from a technology standpoint, but I think that's eventually where people want to head. But I think VR will still be there. But I just never think it's going to break through to Johnny Gamer sitting there, that buys like Call of Duty and Madden and shit like that every year. Like that dude's not going out and buying even a Quest. Like they're not even going to go out and spend a couple $100s to buy a Meta. So
yeah, it just I don't know. I'm dying to try one.
Yeah.
I wanna try it. I wanna be a believer. I just can't justify it with the library. And yeah, and the fact that it's corded is another like it's a small thing, but like nah man, like
Yeah.
the whole point of it is I want to feel like I'm lost in this world. I don't necessarily want to be tethered to the real world.
I just thought of also one pretty big point of the VR digital experience that PlayStation does not have access to, that the Quest and that PC VR headsets do have access to, which is also a really good selling point for VR and something that you would also probably enjoy very much as well, knowing you.
What is that?
What industry needs to adopt any wide format in order for it to be massively successful?
Yeah, when that happens, then I will be convinced.
I mean, it's happened. Just to let you know, like there is definitely VR porn out there, and it's fucking awesome. Like it's pretty cool. So it's a fun experience. I don't have a good transition to talk about the game. One of the games that I've been playing here. So like again, I've been enjoying my gaming. I've had the Steam Deck for a month. I've probably sunk in damn near 100 hours of game time onto this little portable device, which has been really great. I talked about Vampire Survivors a couple weeks ago, a game that, again, was $5. I have put over 30 hours into Vampire Survivors, and I have gotten, I think, 125 of the 140 achievements that are in the game. To be able to unlock. It's very fun. And it's sort of created it seems like it's sort of almost created like a subgenre of video games where these auto battlers, so like kind of like MOBA, but it's not a MOBA, like it's a kind of like an ARPG mixed with like auto battling mechanics. And so a game that was available as a demo on Steam, and it just actually went into early access today that I've been playing, is Soulstone Survivors, which is kind of a natural evolution of Vampire Survivors. So this is the same kind of deal where you have a character, and that character has, starts with one attack, and, you're fighting waves of enemies as they come on the screen. The character attacks automatically and everything's on cooldown timers. And, as you kill enemies, they drop experience. And when you get the experience orbs, you level up and, so on and so on and so on. But this Soulstone Survivors is actually kind of like, what if you take Vampire Survivors and you add like Diablo kind of stuff into it? So like, not only do you have this like feedback, this really fun gaming loop, where you have this characters and you're just like, you go from this like doing these little small attacks in a wide range to doing like screen filling attacks that do like massive damage to all these enemies and stuff like that as you go through the course of a run. but there's also like persistent leveling in the game. So like they have, there's different currencies that you can get resources for, so that you can level up the individual characters. You can unlock new skills for them, new weapons. You can unlock passive skills that affect all your characters. You can, unlock different runes in the game to create different builds, essentially, for each character that catered towards specific skills. It just seems like Vampire Survivors, but with even more potential replay value. Because this game, Soulstone Survivors, I think has 16 different characters in it, which is very different than Vampire Survivors, but at the same time, the 16 different characters, at least initially, all play much more differently from one another. And obviously, like, you can upgrade similar weapons and things like that. But from what I understand, is that each character has a different pool of weapons that they draw from. And like one of the things that the runes can do is you can bring in weapons from other pools into that character's pools to kind of vary up your builds. So far, it's been very fun. It's a little bit quicker. Like each run is a little bit quicker than Vampire Survivors runs, which is great because, again, one of the things that's great about this little subgenre is that you can get in, get out. You can do a couple runs in a very little bit of time. It's very fun. And so that it's been really good so far. So I've been enjoying myself. I put a couple hours in. Again, the game just hit early access today, so that I would imagine they're going to be developing and adding stuff to the game as it's going through its early access period. But again, if you like Vampire Survivors and you're interested for that, but maybe like the next step in that genre, I would definitely recommend checking out Soulstone Survivors, which is on Steam right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It looks cool. There's a lot. There's like a lot going on.
Well, that's the other thing too, is that for you especially, like, I know that you don't like your 8-bit like lo-fi aesthetic in Vampire Survivors. Like that's kind of its thing. Like it's purposely like, that 8-bit style graphics, or at least the character sprites are 8-bit style, and then the environments are only slightly above that, essentially. So like this is much more polished and much more pretty than Vampire Survivors is.
Yeah, I concur. Good Lord, there's a ton of shit going on.
Yeah, but again, it looks like there's a ton of shit going on, but because you're not actually like pressing the buttons to attack, like all that stuff is essentially happening automatically on a timer. And you just have to position yourself well, or make sure you're aiming in the right direction and that kind of stuff. So you can kind of focus on movement a lot more in this game. Like it's not like Diablo where you have to focus on movement and attack. It's a little bit more chill and a little bit less active than an ARPG would typically be.
Cool. Very cool. All right, folks. It's that time again. Go to densepixels.com/fans and join our Discord. Every week, we read your questions and comments from the post office tab. I don't know what the sections are called.
Channel. It's a channel. Discord, yeah.
Channel. Okay. We read all of your questions and comments when you change to the channel that says post office. You can also talk about gaming news. You can pimp your stream. You could talk about all the other stuff that we talk about, F1 and Premier League and all that cool stuff at densepixels.com/fans. Go to youtube.com/densepixels and subscribe. You can see all of the flashing from the television that is playing just to my right. So your left as you are looking at me. And click the bell notification button and click subscribe and all that good stuff. And that's at youtube.com/densepixels. Subscribe to all of our podcasts, wherever you get our podcasts, including The Nerpocalypse, Black on Black Cinema. We are going to be doing a John Boyega movie called Breaking. This is one of, if not Michael K. Williams' last film role. Coming distractions, Jay and I will be seeing Black Panther Wakanda Forever this week, and hopefully we will have a review out before Friday. And the weekly preview episode, the weekly hour-long episode of the Look Forward Political Podcast. Election Day is November 8th, and Jay and Brad are going to be holding an election special, I believe.
As we do.
And I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm also very much looking forward to all of the um, election ads, especially the ones in Virginia,
Mhm.
because I don't live in Virginia, but I live like close to Virginia. I'm looking forward to them just not being around. If I have to hear Yesley Vega's name one more time, I'm gonna fucking scream. Um, go to go to densepixels.com/premium for $5 a month or $50 for the year. You get access to the premium slate of podcasts, including the back episodes of The Airing of Grievances, No Time to Bleed, The Men with the Golden Tongues, Upstage Conversation, and the full episode, the full hour and a half, 2 hour ish episode of the Look Forward Political podcast. That podcast is weekly.
Mhm.
It is fresh every week, and it's worth the price of admission just to hear the thugs of news talk about all the political happenings that's going on and the the massacre that's about to happen tomorrow. Um, so yes, densepixels.com/premium.
And as Mike alluded, we will be, if you're listening to this the day it comes out, we will be live streaming election coverage starting at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Look Forward Show YouTube channel. So you can definitely check that out as well. Mike, a quick check-in. We're not going to belabor this because we've talked about it a lot of last week's current collection level in Marvel Snap. Go.
I think it's like 250.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not far, man. I've been really busy. The only time I get a chance to really sit down and play it is when I'm trying to put the youngest child to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And and he doesn't like to sleep long. So you would think I would have more time, but I'm so annoyed. I'm so annoyed that when I put him down at midnight, and then I go into my room, and then he wakes up 20 minutes later, and I got to
Mm-hmm.
go back, and I got to do that all night long. So I'm just a little too pissed to be playing something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Plus I'm not working, so like that's when
Yeah.
I get on my phone gaming
Yeah.
when I'm working.
Well, see, I'm playing it during my lunch hour, basically. So that's kind of what's going on there. I'm up to
Yeah.
406. I want to say.
406.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Look. I think Doctor Doom is like 460 something.
Yeah, I'm getting close to that pool 3 group of cards that's coming. That's coming soon.
Yeah,
So
buddy.
yeah, it's good. Look, it's still been fun. Still been good. And
I'm very curious. I haven't been keeping up on the news,
mhm.
with it. Have they announced what the next season is going to be?
They have not announced it. There's a rumor. I think there's a post in the post office. We might dip into the question bucket a little bit early today. Let's see here. Blah 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 blah. No, oh, it wasn't in the post office. Someone in the Discord just said the rumor is that they're going to be doing a Wakanda Forever season, so it'll be like Black
Oh,
Panther themed.
well, that makes sense.
Yeah. I
Synergy.
got no qualms with that. Should be pretty cool because to my knowledge, I don't know if there's a Black Panther. I haven't seen a Black Panther card yet. It might be a pull 3 card, so we might not have had a lot of occasion to see it yet. But they might be holding it back for the season to happen.
Yeah.
I did buy the season pass because I did max it out. So I'm like, well, all right,
I mean, you might as
since
well.
I'm gonna get all the rewards, like I'll pay the $10. So I got my Miles Morales card, which really unlocked the
The variant, right?
well, both. You get the regular version right
that's
away,
right.
and then
You
the
get the-
variant when you max it out. Really unlocked the synergies of a move deck for me because Miles Morales, if a card moves the prior turn, you can play him for one energy, and he's a 5 power card, so it's pretty good. Pretty good value. So, so speaking of things that aren't great value,
That actually kind of it amazes. I'm sorry, it amazes me how like some of these cards are built around some of the powers that they have, right? Because
yeah,
if you think about that, like one of Miles's powers that makes him unique amongst the spiders is that he can disappear.
hmm
He has camouflage, so him being able to essentially move at a lower cost is like him sneaking is like him disappearing and sneaking into like another area without being noticed, and then like fucking mollywhopping you in the back of the head. So yeah,
if you say so, this what this game has done is it has introduced me to a whole world of Marvel characters, but I only know them from a mechanic standpoint. So like I don't know. I don't know anything of what they do. All I know is that like Jessica Jones, like, you know, she's only 4 power to start, but if you don't play a card in her area, she will double that up. And that works great in like Bar Sinister when you play a card there, you create copies of that card to fill the entire area. So that's an easy 32 power with 1 card play. And that's what I assume Jessica Jones does, is she just gets more powerful when you leave her alone. So
yeah, she's actually kind of a loner. So like, so she's like, just like, don't fuck with me.
Yeah,
that's funny, man.
So we're moving to Squaresoft, who had themselves not a great week. We're not spending a ton of time on the OCP story where IGN asked him like, "Hey, why all the white people in Final Fantasy 16?" And he's like, because we wanted to have a very European centric setting game, even though it's a fantasy game." And we can do whatever we want. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, people. Don't count on the Japanese to be inclusive of many people. Like they're not even inclusive of their own
of their own
Yeah.
right, of their own people. Yo.
Right.
Like you got them riding giant birds,
Right.
as horses. Like like.
But I mean,
Okay, and then
I'm just like looking at Persona and like Persona 5, for example, the only Persona game that I played. Here's a game that takes place in Japan, and all of the characters basically look like Anglo-styled children, even though that they are all native Japanese people.
They're all native Japanese people. I usually give anime a pass, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's anime, I'm just going to assume that they are Japanese, right? But one of the characters is half Japanese. Like she's she's like, she speaks English and has blonde hair and blue eyes. So yeah, they just can't. And Ryuji, like the only thing that would make him Japanese is his name. Like it's no.
Yeah.
I don't expect. Quite frankly, I'm shocked that Forspoken is starring a woman of color. I
Yeah.
really am.
So again, while Yoshi P's response was abysmally bad and saying nothing probably would have been better, I don't know what anyone was expecting, to be quite honest. So
Yeah.
but much more offensive to me is the fact that, so like they teased this new game they're announcing called Symbiogenesis, and they're like, we have this new project coming, and speculation was rampant. Like a lot of people, like they looked at the name and they're like, oh, like what if we're resurrecting the Parasite Eve franchise and things of that nature, because like these are like, that term sounds like something that would be in a Parasite Eve game, basically, because of all the wacky science that's in those games. But no, this is a new interactive NFT project that is coming from Square sometime next year in the spring. It's going to be a browser-based game for PC and mobile. Square said it's going to be a new, quote, franchise, which will use the Ethereum blockchain, where characters in the game will be able to collect digital art, and there will be an interactive story where players can, quote, untangle a mystery by completing missions.
Okay. We're still hanging on. We're still hanging on to this.
It's interesting to me that Square seems to be a company. They're like the anti-Capcom, right? Like Capcom's doing everything, like is making all the right moves nowadays. Like they're putting out really good games, well thought out. Like they've really taken stock of, you know, the best way to leverage their franchises to be as successful as possible. And Square seems to be successful despite themselves. Like they had all these Western studios. They're chasing the latest trends. They're getting surprised when these don't necessarily pan out. Like, you look at Avengers, and obviously like that's just them trying to chase like the loot box genre. They're like, well, all these companies have these games with these loot boxes. Like, we need a loot box game. Well, it was fucking terrible because you approach the game from that angle. It's like, how can we make a game centered around loot boxes and also has Marvel characters? I have no doubt that this game is going to be equally shitty. Like, because the starting point is how can we make a game centered around distributing NFTs that people will pour money into, hopefully. And if it wasn't for Final Fantasy XIV defying the odds and being like the broken clock of the Square universe over the past several years, where would Square be right now?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Square is like Square is like professional wrestling in that something is just kind of over and done with once they start doing it in wrestling, right? Like catch these hands. You about to catch these hands was like a colloquialism that people used to use, and then like Braun Strowman started saying, "Get these hands." It's just like, all right, well, that's done. It's over. The kids used to say, "Oh, this is mid, like middling, right?" Like, and now like they're doing it in wrestling, and now it's like this is kind of corny and lame. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. That's what I get from Square. Like, oh man, like people like first of all, they don't like these looter shooters, but like people like looter shooters. I mean, at least they had the forethought to like nab the biggest IP that's going right now in Avengers. But then they turn around and like they piss all over it. So I have no doubt that this is going to be a bunch of garbage. I look forward to watching it fail, and I look forward to guffawing about it with you when it does.
Yeah, make no bones about it. Like, Mike and I are not going to fucking touch this thing with a 10-foot pole, even if it's fucking free. Like, there's no way. Like, not even pure smooth brain curiosity would get me to fucking even give this thing a minute of my time. Get the fuck out of here. So,
man's got to have a code, for God's sakes.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I will not do anything that's directly supporting NFTs. So Riot also made a bit of news this week. So they put a gay black champion in the game, which is a very forward progressive move. Not surprisingly, Lil Nas X had its featured at their Worlds tournament that they had over this past weekend as a performance, which is very cool. Not so cool is that they are self-censoring this character in certain regions where League of Legends is played. Now, League of Legends, global phenomenon, has very high player counts all over the world, perhaps even more so in other regions that aren't the U.S. or aren't Western regions. And basically, he said, this is Jeremy Lee, who is a member of Riot Games, and he's quoted as saying that each region can publish certain aspects of the game a little bit differently to fit into the local culture, which is really more to say, hey, there's a lot of people, or a lot of countries around the world where homosexuality is illegal, if not just ostracized still. And so these countries apparently do not have a gay character in the game, and they have certain things that are in like the game's lore and things like that to obfuscate the fact that this character is homosexual.
I mean, I hate it when people do this, like because it's disingenuous and like if you're gonna support. If you're going to be an ally, that's why I don't like when people are like, "Oh, I'm an ally." Like, you can't just be an ally to my face, right? You can't. If you want to do this, that's fine, I guess. No, it's not. But like, don't turn around and then just try to get like kudos for doing this.
Right.
That's my thing, right? People are going to do what they want, right? Like I understand from a practical business aspect, right, of
Mhm.
why they made the option the way they did. But like, don't turn around and be like, "Hey, look at what we did. Come pat us on the back." Um, in for a penny, in for a pound, man. I don't. I hate it when companies do this.
Yeah.
Like, stand in your truth, man.
Yeah.
Like, this just makes you seem very wishy washy.
Well, and again, like not to excuse them for doing this because it's weak. I know why they do it because they want to make sure that nothing's upsetting the bajillions of dollars that they're raking in
Right.
from
I
League of
get it.
Legends. Like they want to make sure that they're not like the game's not getting banned in certain countries because of this. And now to be clear, the lore for these characters exists, I believe, solely on the League of Legends website. Like there's no actual difference in the game itself. But
Mhm.
it's just I don't know. This seems so unnecessary to me, especially if it's not in the game specifically. Like if this
Yeah.
character's lore is not in the game specifically that addresses the fact that he's homosexual, then why does it even matter
Right.
if it's that way or not? Like what even
He's
makes a
not
difference?
he's not he's there's not a dick sucking button, right? Like, he's not performing on in the game. So like,
Yeah,
I don't like, just don't even make it, don't even like, put the character in there, but like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
well, like you said, they want credit for doing the right thing, even if they're not really like they're doing the right thing, but they're not really because they're not actually standing up for the values that they claim to hold dear because they're not pushing up against other cultures and other countries where this stuff is not permitted. Where if you're truly fighting for equality, like that's not just a Western fight. Like you fight for equality worldwide, and there's still a lot of cultures and countries, especially in the eastern part of the world, where even in and I'm not just talking about like the Middle East, like Japan, it's still kind of like very
Yeah.
very very taboo in a lot of ways. They're getting better. They're making inroads. Like we're seeing Nintendo put LGBTQ characters in their games now for the first time, which is great. But it's taken a really long time to get there, and there's still a long way to go. And I mean, there's still a long way to go in this fucking country. Like in this country where it's where it's just a fact of life now. But you have a whole political party that would just as well disenfranchise these people from a variety of different rights if they could, like if they had their druthers about them. So the more that when you have we've talked about it on the show before, like when you have a platform as large as League of Legends, not that you're responsible to fight for these things, but if you believe in them, you are. And I just feel like
If you
that,
say you do, if you
right,
say you believe in them, then, well, guess what? You opened yourself up to that.
right,
Like, if you don't, if you're not ready to, to back up this creation, you might as well just not put it in there. Like, I just not put that character in there. Like, I don't, yeah, you don't get any kudos from me if you're not ready. And it's not just video games that do this, right?
hmm,
Like, movies do it all the time, right? Because
sure,
they want to get that big global box office, especially like the Chinese market,
oh
right?
sure, yeah, yeah, absolutely,
And so, look, I'm not harping on uh riots specifically, but this is just people in general. Like, if you're not ready to, if you say Black Lives Matter, but like if you say you want to fight for the homeless, but like not in my backyard,
yeah,
then like you ain't down for that fight. Like, don't expect me to pat you on the back, So I like I all right. I'm gonna go off on a tangent
that's all
here.
right.
And
Yeah,
this is this is game related. I'm incredibly disappointed with the NBA.
hmm,
And look, I haven't watched the video that Kyrie Irving essentially endorsed. But I guarantee you, if it's coming from him, the person who doesn't believe in vaccines and thinks that the world is a Rubik's cube, I guarantee you it is not, it is not good.
Mhm.
It is some foul shit. And the way the NBA as an organization, players and organization, bent over backwards to show black people, hey, we stand with you. We, you know, end racism. We can we put little monograms and stuff on the back of your jerseys, and like everybody came together in the NBA for Black Lives Matter. And this dude comes off and essentially endorses some anti-Semitic shit, and nobody is saying anything. Nobody. Very. It took them a while to act on it. I mean, the
Mhm.
damn commissioner is Jewish, for fuck's sakes, and it took them forever to act on it. And I'm incredibly disappointed. I'm incredibly disappointed, yo. And you know, you can't be like, this ain't my fight. Like,
Mhm.
nah, yo. It is. It is. White supremacy has pit blacks and Jews against each other for years, decades. To It's classic divide and conquer,
Mhm.
because we have a shared history. We have a parallel history, and it's and their atrocities happened 80 years ago. So you could see why. I understand why they don't really want that shit to fucking happen again.
You're right.
It only happened 80 years
Like
ago.
they're like, again, still people on this planet literally were alive when
Right.
like during the Holocaust. So
So for people to just be like, well, you know, I'm just trying to play ball, and well, you know, I'm not here to tell this man what he, you know, like, nah, yo, that's bullshit, and it's cowardly.
well, and I mentioned this on Look Forward too. Like Reggie Miller made a really good point during a Nets broadcast when Kyrie, before Kyrie was, I don't know, suspended or, or whatever the fuck, whatever mild tepid discipline they levied
Yeah.
on him.
Oh, he can't play 10 games. Motherfucker, he didn't play like 50 games last year. You think that's going to hurt him?
Right. But Reggie Miller made the point where he's like, look, he's like, this league had no problem coming together to excise like Donald Sterling and Robert Sarver and like a lot of these racist ownership groups, and rightly so. He's like, but you can't but then to not be able to speak out when one of your own is, you know, peddling some anti-Semitic bullshit. He's like, that's not right. And like Shaq and Barkley also went off on him during inside the NBA as well. So it's nice to see pressure coming in from the media on the topic. But I was also disappointed that more players didn't speak up as well.
Yeah, yo. Even if it's just to say, even if it's just to denounce anti-Semitism,
Right.
yeah, writ large. Like I just, I don't know, man. I don't know. I, it just made me mad. All right, that's enough of the free preview episode of the Look Forward Political Podcast. I am your more handsome host, not Jay, joined by my co-host Brad.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll
yeah.
tell you what. Let's peddle some Amazon wares, and then I'll talk about Gordian Quest.
Go to densepixels.com/Amazon. That guy might be buying the Commanders.
I know, along with Jay-Z and Matthew McConaughey, according to last reports.
Like, what the fuck? Like, dude, you already got HQ2 right in that backyard, man. All right,
Dude, I know that this isn't the reason why Jeff Bezos is thinking about buying the Commanders, but I know it's also not the reason why Jeff Bezos is looking to buy the Commanders, because that just gives him one more thing that will stick in Donald Trump's craw, because Donald Trump
absolutely.
always wanted to own an NFL team, and the owners would not let him at the table. That's why he basically caught on to the USFL in the 80s and tried to run that fucking league.
Absolutely. That is 100% part of the reason why he wants to own he don't need to own a football team. What the fuck? Anybody think Jeff Bezos knows what a football is? Oh my god. But yeah, no, that's 100%. Just to have more inroads into the seat of power,
Right.
In this country. To own everything except the presidency. is that's that guy's goal. Like rich people fighting is just hilarious to me. Go to go to densepixels.com/Amazon for all of your Amazon purchases. When you do, we get a little minuscule cut of a finder's fee of what you purchase. Now, I typed in football to densepixels.com/Amazon, and I'm getting a litany of footballs. Just nothing but balls. Red, blue balls, yellow balls, brown balls, Patriot balls, um, street balls, street legend balls, those balls that have like the aerodynamics like built into
Mhm.
them, uh, so you can pretend that you threw the ball farther when in fact it's just a Nerf ball. That's why you threw it so far. The football that looks like a pineapple grenade, um, and a whole host of other football related items like the Franklin Sports NFL Kids football uniform. That's a Cowboys uniform, so literally everyone in Southern Maryland is going to buy it because it's a Cowboys fucking uniform. That's pixels.com/Amazon.
And let me tell you something from a cachet standpoint. Spending $2 billion on an NFL team will get you it will make you way cooler than spending $44 billion on a platform that you're intent on burning down to the ground. That's all I'm gonna say
Right, I
about
mean,
that.
like, what does that guy do? Like, rich people, like, this is, I'm all for people making as much money as they possibly can, but there is an argument, a very, very good one, a very, like, these people just have so much money that they just don't know what to do. So I'm just gonna buy a social media platform on a whim, and now people are making fun of me. So now I'm gonna destroy it. Like, shut up. God, I hate. God, fucking. Let me be rich. Let me win that Powerball. Let me be a billionaire.
Which team are you gonna buy?
Oh man, which team am I gonna buy? I should buy the Broncos just so I can reenact that scene in The Simpsons where he's gifted the team and Homer's just like, oh, the
The Denver
Broncos.
Broncos.
And that's pretty much right now. That is pretty much the exact same reaction that I would have if I owned the Broncos.
Ironically, that episode came out like the year before they won the one of two straight Super Bowls. So like
Yeah,
that's
they
the
were
one
pissed.
time where the Simpsons got it wrong, where it was
Yeah, they
ill
were
timed.
pissed.
Yeah.
We're not going to be made fun of by Matt Groening.
The other game I've been playing, again, because there's not a card-based deck builder that I will not buy, is a game called Gordian Quest, which is the answer to the question, what do you get when you cross Slay the Spire with Dungeons and Dragons? This is a campaign-driven RPG that the combat happens to be played with a deck of cards for each character that you have in your party of three. Well, the other thing that makes this nifty is that it's a tactical deck building game. So battles take place on different sized grids that are usually arranged in some kind of square or rectangle. And you can actually position your characters around the grid, which determines who are eligible targets for the different attacks or abilities that they can use. The enemies can do the same thing, where the enemies can position themselves and they have different attacks that only attack specific areas. Like Slay the Spire and other games of this ilk, you do get a preview to see what your enemies are going to do when it's their turn to act. So you can kind of use that information to best position yourself to win the battle. As characters level up, you unlock nodes on a skill tree, essentially, which you can use to unlock new cards, to power up the cards you have, trim your deck down, or to give yourself ability points in strength, dexterity, or intelligence, which then comes into play because as you go through the game, you'll run into different events, which basically uses a D20 system to determine how successful or poorly you did the event, which will then change kind of how the rest of the game unfolds. It's light on story and higher on gameplay, which is fine for me because I'm much more all about gameplay with this stuff. What I will say is that if you have been interested to check out like card-driven deck builders, I think it's a really good one to get into because it really is approachable from a system standpoint because it really does play pretty much more like an RPG that just happens to have cards more than a card-driven deck builder game. I think it's a little bit easier to kind of wrap your hands around the systems for folks that might not be as into the genre. The other thing that I think is really cool is that they have 3 different difficulty levels that basically take the game from either a campaign-driven RPG, where when you die, you get kicked back to town and for your party to regroup, and then you can go back out from where you laid off, or you can do it in a roguelike or roguelite modes where it's much more run driven, where you have to kind of do everything without dying and in that sort of way. So you can kind of scale the difficulty based on your experience in these games. Again, another solid deck building game. This one had really good reviews, so I was anxious to check it out on a sale. Gordian Quest is good. Like this is one that I'm not going to be like sitting down playing for hours at a time. Like I'll just kind of check back in on it occasionally and just make a little bit more progress. Kind of reminds me of Griftlands, which was one of the deck builders that I played last year that I thought was excellent.
So I'm looking at this, and I've been curious about Midnight Suns. That's the Firaxis Marvel tactical card building game, right? And the way you're describing Gordian Quest, minus the strategic like grid based arena, is kind of sounds like what's going on with Midnight Suns. Do you have any interest in that?
Yes.
I'm interested, but I don't want to.
Micah, as you are friends with me on Steam, you would know that Midnight Suns is on my Steam wish list because I'm very curious to see if the game's going to be any good, because I really enjoy what I found about tactics games is that I need something else besides just the dudes on the grid and the random die rolls to get me into it. Like if that's all it is, I'm going to bounce off pretty quickly. Like XCOM, I tried so hard, so many times with XCOM to really dig deep and get into the game, and I just can't. Like for some reason I just can't. I feel like I play them so poorly. But if you give me a hook, a mechanic hook that I can really wrap my hands around, that's where I start to get into tactics games a little bit more. And so like Midnight Suns being card driven and not being so grid based, I think for me is what I would need to get into that game. Plus, like I have all these new Marvel characters that I can learn about in all new mechanical ways that's I currently do with Marvel staff.
Yeah, I'm curious about it. I haven't pulled the trigger on it because like I'm not. I'm trying to get out of that. Right.
I would wait for reviews and see kind of what the word is on the street about it before you dive in. But I do think that from what I've seen of Midnight Suns, that seems like if you're interested in this like mechanic, that seems like a good inroad, because not only is it a genre of games that you're already somewhat familiar with, but it's Marvel, so like you also have that to kind of get you in there as well.
Yeah.
All right. Quick trip to the post office. Johnny asked us how we felt about the fact that it's N7 day and nothing was really shown. He said, "How oozy are we feeling about that?" That's it's what we expect, right? Like we're not expecting much from BioWare with Mass Effect quite yet.
No, not yet. It's way too early. It's way too early. I expect to hear more Dragon Age stuff before I hear anything related to Mass Effect, and I don't expect any Dragon Age stuff for a good long while.
I agree.
So I'm not too pressed about it.
Gustavo asked me, how do I feel about Tottenham Hotspur going against his AC Milan in the opening round Champions League matchup? I have to say, Gustavo, of the matchup possibilities that existed for Tottenham, Milan was definitely one of the ones that I wanted to get because they are one of the easier outs, in my opinion, in that first round of the Champions League. Doesn't mean Spurs won't fuck it up, because if there's anything Tottenham Hotspur will do, it is snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. But it definitely beats the shit out of potentially playing some of the other clubs that we had the possibility of being drawn against in the first round of the knockout stage.
Sounds like fighting words.
Well, plus the other thing is there's a fucking eon between now and when the knockout rounds actually happen, because the Champions League takes place in two phases. You have the group stage, which happens at the beginning of the season, and then you have the knockout rounds, which is the single elimination tournament, which happens in the more in the springtime. But not only do you have summer transfers and a lot of months to go between now and then, we also have a World Cup this year, but between now and then. So a lot could no one knows what to expect. All these players are gonna be fucking dog ass tired by the time we get there. Tottenham, if they go far in the domestic cups as well, are gonna be playing just an absurd amount of fucking football matches over the next several months between, and plus they have a lot of players who are on World Cup squads as well, so they're going to be playing all through the World Cup too.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Who do you root for in the World Cup?
Well, the U.S. of course, but if the U.S. is not playing, I'm partial to Holland and to England.
Okay, all right. I was just curious because, I'm going to root for the U.S. Mm-hmm. I'm going to root for France just because I like to pretend that I'm a Francophile. You know what I mean? I really enjoyed my time there. But yeah, I always wonder, who do Americans root for in the World Cup? Because America isn't exactly known for, dominating soccer.
No, not necessarily. Like I said, I can tell you that white Americans generally root for the teams that represent their ancestral homelands, essentially.
Oh,
which is why
no dog in this fight.
Yeah, which is why I root for the Netherlands and also England, because I'm pretty sure that part of my mother's side is of British descent, at least. Plus, England has a shitload of Spurs players on the squad as well, so I like to see them do well.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
All right.
Cam says, do you think AEW bringing back Colt Cabana to TV last week will trigger a CM Petty return to WWE?
No.
Yeah,
no.
I'm gonna say if Vince was there, I would say maybe. The fact that Triple H is running the show leads me to believe that CM Punk is not going to want to go anywhere near Vince's quote doofus son-in-law, as he as he puts it.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's going to happen. I think CM Punk is unless it's all work.
Right.
I think CM Punk is done with mainstream professional wrestling. Right, there are only two companies who could afford what he'd be asking, mm-hmm. and he's kind of burnt bridges with the two of those. I saw that we'll know for sure when AEW Fight Forever comes out, because he's front and center.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. He is front and center. And that game is a day one Game Pass game. So I will check that out. But yeah, well, no, he ain't coming back. He ain't coming back to WWE. What they gonna do with him? What they gonna do with him?
Yeah. I mean, and that just goes these are the growing pains that a young company has to work through, right? Tony Khan should never have fucking hitched that big of a wagon to a dude like CM Punk without having it out or having an escape clause or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
he literally put the belt on this guy twice.
Yeah. He's the worst type of person to manage something like this. He's a fan,
right?
You don't get high on your own supply, right? You can't. That's not how you run a business. You know what I'm saying? Like the cons aren't from Jacksonville, right? Like they don't have an emotional attachment to the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's a business. Like that's what you need. That's how you need to run it. Vince fucking hates wrestling. He fucking hates it. Vince wants to own a football team and bodybuild. That's what Vince McMahon wanted to do. And he kind of fell into wrestling, and but he wasn't a mark for wrestling.
Right.
It was a business for him. And that's Tony Khan's like big problem, in my opinion, is he's too close to the fandom. He's too much of an internet wrestling guy.
Yeah.
And I still like AEW. I just don't watch it as much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, meanwhile, like WWE is taking the most annoying white man, the personification of white privilege, and making the world love him. So I don't know, man.
Who is this you're referring to?
Logan Paul.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, look, Logan Paul. I didn't watch it, but the returns are he did a hell of a fucking job.
I mean,
and
I've seen clips of him doing buckshot lariats, and there's a picture that looks like a fucking anime poster of like Roman Reigns going for a punch and Logan Paul 10 feet in the air doing a flying punch and shit. Like it's fucking wild, dude.
Yeah, like I said, I still don't like him, but he has begrudgingly earned a modicum of respect from me, especially apparently doing his knee in the middle of the match and still finishing it up.
Yeah, he's taking it seriously, man. Like oh, all right, okay.
So I don't understand why he needs it. Like he's the last guy that fucking need he doesn't need WWE at all. Like he's doing quite well for himself regardless. But and now his brother wants to get into it too. It's fucking hell. We're gonna see the Paul brother tag team champions at some point, I'm sure. So.
All right, that will be my David Arquette moment with WWE. Get out of here, man.
Let's see. We also have Cam asked if we saw the last woman standing match between Bianca and Bayley at Blood Money in the Bank. No. I make it a point of principle to not watch any of the Saudi shows. I've not watched a single minute of them.
No, I don't watch them live. If Facebook usually posts, not Facebook, but you know what I mean. If I'm scrolling through Facebook, one of the wrestling, groups that I follow will post clips or pictures and stuff like that. But no, I generally don't watch the actual event. At least not through Peacock or whatever.
Mm. And then he also says, with the official Gears of War movie news that was announced today, are we automatically casting Dave Bautista as Dom, and who else is in your cast if you had the pencil? I think Dave Bautista is too good for the Gears of War movie. I don't like he may even want to do it, but I think he's too good of an actor to be cast in that shit.
I think he would be Well, I think Cam might have made a mistake. I think he meant Marcus.
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
Marcus Phoenix.
I know who Dom probably should be, and you're gonna and if you can't think of it yourself, you're gonna hit yourself once I say it because it's too obvious. I feel like.
Who was that?
John Barenthal. I feel like would be a good Dom.
There you go. There you go. He would be a good Dom.
Yeah.
I look if Dave Bautista doesn't want to do it, which I would not blame him. I do think Dave Bautista is a better actor than just he's proven to be a better actor than just be a meathead, and I don't think he would necessarily want to do it because he's already done it in a Gears of War game. Like he was a skin, and he voiced Marcus. In like Gears 5 or something like that. You can get somebody like Joe Manganiello, you know what I mean? Like he seems to be like right around that level, right?
Yeah.
He's a big thick dude running around killing aliens and shit. Look, if Lester Spate isn't
they're not going to cast him. Is it
well, then I'm not watching.
Is it too obvious to cast Terry Crews in that role?
I
as
think it
Coltrane.
is. I think I think that's easy pickings, right? Like
Hmm.
I think that's an easy cast to an easy slot to fill with him. Um, and it would work.
Hmm.
It would work. But you know, I got to get Terry Tate, man. I got to get
Yeah.
Terry Tate.
Baird,
And
Baird, I don't know off the top of
oh,
my head.
Baird could be like Baird could be like John Cena,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not saying
Yeah.
that just
Could.
he's
Could.
like John Cena, John Cena's peacemaker character, but smart.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can totally see that happening. Because you don't want to get somebody like, I mean, the only other person I can think of maybe is like Ryan Reynolds, but I think
Right.
he's a little too snarky. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well.
look, because I thought about this.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
you got to cast Carmine, right? You got to cast Carmine. You got to cast Carmine. It's got to be an actor with a very distinct voice
Hmm.
and an actor that is willing to not take a helmet off, right? You got to be someone. It's got to be someone committed to the art of acting to play this incredibly silly role.
Hmm.
And there's only one actor who is committed enough to play this role, and that is Nicolas Cage. Um, if you cast Nicolas Cage as Carmine, you give him the Con Air accent,
Hmm.
and you tell him that he's gonna die and he's gonna have a tremendous death scene. He's gonna eat it up, and then you tell him if this movie does well, we're gonna recast you as your family member, right? Your brother, like they
Hmm.
did in the game, right? And then you can have a totally different spin on what this character is supposed to be. You just need to keep the accent, right? I think that would be an acting challenge that he would fucking leap at, and I want to see it.
There is no way that this movie, if it gets made, is going to be any good, right?
No, no, I'm not expecting a Netflix movie, right? It's a Netflix movie.
Yeah.
No, Netflix movies are trash. But
God, that's true. There really hasn't been a lot of good movies that Netflix
no,
has
not
put
a lot,
forth. So,
not a lot. I'm. This would be like a bad Predator movie, and as long as it's not the Predator,
mhm.
I'm totally fine with it. So
Finally, T Wash says, "What game do you wish you could erase from your game history?" He brings up Kane and Lynch 2 as his.
look, I'm not proud. I was a very lonely person. All those anime titty games that I
Mhm.
have, them Senran Kagura games, I wish I could just kind of delete from my history, especially like the 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 bikini one,
Mhm.
because like I've got enough cognitive dissonance that I can be like, well, I bought those Senran Kagura games because they're like, they're action games, and I'm killing like swaths of enemies, and just like, and with like big titty like anime chicks, and I can't do that with the beach bikini one because it's just a bunch of anime women shooting water guns at each other. So yeah, no, and I think I got a trophy in it, so I can't like delete it from my list.
I don't know that there's a game that I'm so ashamed of that I wish I could just like nuke it from my history. There's probably a PS3 game in there that I might not be the most proud of. I will tell you the one game. There had not been too many games that I played specifically for trophies. One game that I know I played specifically just for trophies was Legends of WrestleMania, which was a 2 hour platinum trophy. And I just remember like the last trophy I needed was to enter the Royal Rumble at number one and to win. And because back in that game, like the Royal Rumble was just a button mashing mini game essentially, just throw people out of the ring. I just hooked up a fucking fight pad and switched it onto turbo and just fucking went about my business with the big show, just to get that trophy wrapped up. And again, I played that game one day, just to get those trophies, and never touched it again after that. So that is probably the most shame that I've committed from a gaming standpoint.
The only game I played just for trophies, like purely for trophies, was I didn't buy it. I checked it out at GameStop because like, oh, I can just get a bunch of trophies. Was Terminator Resistance?
Yeah. Yep.
Terminator Resistance was, first of all the trophies were like gold trophies or something stupid, right?
Yep.
And the game could be beaten in like a couple of hours.
Yeah, and all you had to do was beat the game on hard difficulty. I remember, just to unlock the platinum.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I was like, oh, all right, whatever, I'll take it.
But yeah, like I said, usually if a game's like absolute shit, like I'll bounce off pretty quickly. Oh, actually, you know what? Like I feel I've talked about these on the show before. I feel a little bit of shame about like the P-Cross series on the Switch, only because of how much time I've spent across all those games that have come out. Like I'm talking like hundreds of hours, like working through all these P-Cross puzzles, which is insane. Now, I've probably been doing other stuff while I've been doing them, because it's a great, like, have something else on that you're actually paying attention to while you're just doing these puzzles. But yeah. I've spent an absurd amount of time across the P-Cross series on the Nintendo Switch. So maybe that's the one. Maybe that's the one for me. So that is it for the post office. Thank you guys very much for submitting your questions, which you too can do by going to densepixels.com/fans, which also means that's the end of this podcast episode. So don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you download fine podcasts. Make sure you go over to youtube.com/densepixels and subscribe over there as well. Follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/densepixels. You can also follow our individual accounts. I'm DensePixels Brad, Carrie Stumpets Carrie, Terrence is Apparition410. We may not be back next week. I might be traveling again. I don't know yet for sure. So if we don't have a show next week, don't be surprised. But if I'm not traveling, then we will have a show next week. But we'll see.
There you go. I'll have my thoughts on God of War if we have a show. And if not, you will have my thoughts on them in December, because I'm going on vacation.
Oh, well, shit. Well, by then you'll have beaten the game and really be able to share all of your thoughts. I got to tell you, so like reviews came out late last week for God of War Ragnarok. I have zero like interest in this game right now.
Well, I mean, you didn't play the first one at all, did you?
I played through, I want to say, like, I don't know how far in the story I got. I feel like I got about a third of the way in. Like I was climbing up the mountain where I left off.
Was Atreus, did Atreus learn about Kratos' godhood?
I don't think so. Not at that point. I don't think that it did. I didn't have the chains by the time I stopped. I know they're in the game. So
yeah, they're in the game. They come in like the middle to like latter part of the second act. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a good story. It's and I'm expecting the new one to have a good story. Look, it's blockbuster video game making, right? Like it's what Naughty Dog does.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm just so, I don't want to say out on that, but like I feel like it takes something truly different to kind of catch my attention in there. So like the next blockbuster game, I guess you could say, that I'm looking forward to. And I didn't someone, I could have sworn I saw a question somewhere about like anticipated 2023 games that I might have just missed. Yeah. Oh, Johnny asked it. Yeah, he said what's your most anticipated AAA game of 2023? It's Final Fantasy 16 for me, because I haven't been excited about a Final Fantasy game since 13, and 13 was a massive letdown for me.
Yeah.
And so before that, you'd have to go back to 8 before I was like really geeked out for a Final Fantasy game. So yeah, so that is a blockbuster game, but it looks really interesting to me because it looks like it's like comfort food Final Fantasy, but like also very different than what they've done in previous games.
Yeah, it's a toss up between Final Fantasy and Spider-Man, and I feel like Final Fantasy will win out just because it's something new.
Right,
You know what I
Spider-Man will
mean?
just be more Spider-Man, like which isn't a
Right.
bad thing.
No,
But
certainly not for me, but
yeah,
like if I want something brand new, yeah, I'm super excited for Final Fantasy. So
and I think it's also one of the reasons that I was so taken with Elden Ring this year, because like that game felt so new and refreshing to me because I had never really played any of the Souls games previously. And it just did so many interesting things and had a lot of really interesting ideas that for me, like, it was like a breath of fresh air. And like Ghost of Tsushima was a breath of fresh air for me because it was a very, specific, period piece, and had very, unique combat compared to what you usually see in those types of games, and kind of just did open world better than most other games in the genre do it. So like for me, like that's awesome. Spider-Man I never had any desire to play, not only because I don't really have any connection with the character, but because to me like it looks like just another Arkham game essentially. And like I feel like that I've had kind of my fill with those games.
yeah, if I'm being honest, like part of it is because I still collect these
Right.
things. You know what I mean? Like it just the character means a lot to me. I think but if you're looking for like innovations in gameplay,
Mhm.
it's different, but you could boil it down to other types of games.
Right.
Like with God of War, you got to be along for that ride because while the combat is fine, it can get rudimentary.
Mhm.
You got a lot of options, but like they don't force you to use those options.
Right.
So yeah, I'm still looking forward to this God of War. I'm super curious to see what the story will be because the first story was super simple, and it kind of during my replay, it really hit me differently now that I'm a father. Um, yeah, I could see a lot of my dad in Kratos,
Mhm.
and I don't want that for my sons. Because Kratos is not a good dad. He's just a present dad at that moment. Um, but yeah, I'm super curious about the story, and that's not really something you say about a video game, right? Like I want
Mhm.
to play the video game, but that's why I never got into The Last of Us Part Two. I'm sure The Last of Us Part Two is phenomenal. Everyone says it is, right? I don't care about that story, so that's why I'm not like into it. But I'm
Yeah.
into this God of War story, so we'll see. We'll see.
We will.
Hopefully next week. If not, whenever.
So, well, very cool. Well, that's it for us. Thank you all for watching and listening. We'll see you all the next time.
See ya.
You're watching the Dense Pixels YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button while you're here and make sure you check out our weekly podcast where we discuss the latest gaming news and our impressions on what games we've been playing.